I'm back. What the I was just gonna jump straight into the spiritual nitty-gritty, but I felt like that wasn't really right. How can I talk about everything that's going on spiritually in 2025 if I don't first talk about the fact that I started off this year, spiritual new year, calendar new year, the whole shebang, offline? If you guys have been following along with me since, any time before now, you'll know I've been kind of sort of struggling with my online presence. Being online or being present online had become more and more of a necessity due to the pandemic that we all experienced 2020, 2021. And we started to kind of come out of that phase in 2022, right? Much like everybody else, I started creating online content, creating things that could be accessible through the interwebs. However, I slowly began to kind of lose myself in content creation and just trying to figure out what works, what's going to get people, drawn into what I'm doing and what I have to offer, right? So it was like this never-ending cycle of trying to figure out what am I going to create next, and what can I do more of, and yada 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 yada. Along with that, I also encountered some internet trolls, just kind of like haters and people who just were constantly biting off of me but didn't want to give me credit or admit that, like, oh, I like your content, or I'ma support you. Just nothing. I started to feel defeated, being that a lot of the content that I've made thus far has been spiritual. Spirit gave me a message to keep going, right? And so I kept going because there was a work that was being done within me, and that spiritual strength and just growing my confidence, growing what you guys may refer to as the solar plexus, just growing that energy within myself came through content creation. Being more consistent came through content creation. So, it's not all evil, content creation and being online. It definitely helped me in my spiritual journey. If you're new here, what you will learn about me is that I always like to extract the medicine out of things. Because too much of anything can become poisonous, right? So just because being online did help me grow as far as being able to show up, perform, be consistent, and just like continue being a creator, right? Because that's what I was put here to do, period. Just because the internet and content creation helped me to do those things doesn't mean that it couldn't become poisonous at some point. So when it started to become poisonous, I then was still going to Spirit, like, okay, Spirit, this is getting kind of crazy. The obsession that some people have with being trolls is weird. Yeah, this is like not okay. After pushing through, right? We did the push through journey. After pushing through, like I said, getting my confidence up a little higher, because I already am pretty confident, but getting my confidence up a little higher and just working on being consistent, showing up. Once I kind of got that down, I knew, okay, I need to pull away. It started with Instagram. I deleted my Instagram in 2023. And the reason being, I never talked about this. I never really, went into detail about why I deleted my Instagram on any of my platforms. I deleted my Instagram because, number one, I just feel like a lot of people are like super obsessed with Instagram. Like, even I'm 2 years Instagram free in August, actually in September. So I'm 2 years Instagram free almost. Even to this day, like when I meet new people, they are always like, what's your Instagram? Oh, just follow me on IG. And then when I tell them I don't have IG, they're like shocked, or they're like, oh, okay, well, you got anything else? Like, it's just this obsession with IG. Like, oh, it, like, even in dating, like, oh, let me see your IG page. Like, are you serious? You're looking at me right here. Like, you want to see me on a picture to see if I look the same or if I look good? I do look good. I'm standing right in front of you. What do you mean? So I don't know. I don't like the obsession with Instagram. I don't like the kind of flex on you nature that it kind of promotes. Like, everybody on IG is, trying to show their quote unquote best life, which is fine. I did it too. I participated in the shenanigans too. But, like, and you can do this on other platforms. I'm not saying that that's not possible, but what I'm saying is that I personally have felt that Instagram kind of promotes this braggadocious, behavior. And then when you see people in real life, you find out it's not really what it was giving. You know what I'm saying? And also, on top of that, people just act weird. Like, on Instagram, they act one way. In real life, they don't even want to speak to you. They don't want you to look at them. It's like, what's really going on? On top of that, spiritually, my spirits told me that a lot of the evil eye that I was feeling and experiencing was actually coming through the portal of Instagram. Yes, these apps, these social media platforms, anything where you can post and record yourself, go live and all of that type of stuff, is you opening a portal for other people to access you mentally, emotionally, etc. And so, as I mentioned, a lot of the trolls and, internet gangsters, they were on IG, baby. So just, as somebody watching this may say, oh, well, they can still access you. I know that. However, sometimes, like I said, when you have an attachment to maybe a personality or a persona or an image that you are displaying on this Instagram platform, and I now shift you away from that, I've now put the power back in my hands, because this persona or this image you have on this app does not matter to me. I can't even see that shit. Look, I'm not going to your profile seeing, what they're doing, da 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 da. I made a TikTok last year where I kind of talked about evil eye in depth. A lot of people like wearing evil eye jewelry and all of that stuff like that. But a lot of times, people don't think about that they can have evil eye, not just evil eye can come to them, right? So, I'm gonna be the first person to admit that, yeah, I sometimes was the evil eye. I sometimes was the person lurking platforms, go and see what this person's doing and saying and, whatever. And, it was starting to detract from my journey and my growth and my focus on myself. There was harmful activity for me going on Instagram. it also had become a really big distraction for me. And I also just didn't like the energy that I felt was on the app. So yeah, that began my journey of kind of detaching from the internet so much. Was just getting off Instagram. And you know, when I was fresh out of high school, I didn't delete my Instagram, but I like deleted the app off my phone, and I just kind of like disconnected from all social media pretty much for like 6 to 9 months back when I was like 18 to 19. And you know, so it's kind of like when I look back over the last 10 years of my life, I've always been searching for that balance between social media presence and protecting my peace and not doing too much, you know, not letting people tune into, you know, my inner world, my inner thoughts, my feelings, because, you know, some stuff, as one of my favorite people to watch right now says, some stuff is for the group chat, okay? It's not for the world. It's not for everybody, you know? And I'm somebody who, I can definitely overshare. So, you know, pulling back every now and then is a very healthy way for me to check me and check my boundaries, and also just realign with the purpose of why I'm getting on these apps and posting content in the first place. Let me just go through real quick my top lessons that I learned while offline, starting off 2025. Again, I was offline for about 4 months. I popped back on. So from January to May, I was offline, and I popped back on in the middle of May, and I started posting on my personal page, my spiritual pages, and then my artist pages. So, you know, I have a couple different platforms. You can find them if you want to link up with me in different ways and support me in different ways too. Don't forget that I will be transparent. You know, there were times where I did kind of pop in on YouTube, like not really too many other apps, but like definitely YouTube. I like kind of popped in and was like, oh, I just want to watch, you know, a few of this person's videos, or, you know, whatever, right? But it wasn't like a regular thing. Like I definitely truly got a full cleanse. I'm thankful for that, and I will talk more about why I'm thankful. But let me get through these lessons. Okay, so lesson number 1 is give your work time to resonate. Okay, so as I mentioned to you guys, like I had been creating content, and you know, like some stuff I look back at and I'm like, oh, that wasn't really that good. You know, the quality wasn't really there. You know, maybe the content was too long, maybe it was too lengthy, maybe it was too wordy, you know, like I kind of, you know, look back over my things and judge them. But at the same time, there are recent contents that maybe I had put out over the last year where I had really kind of, you know, found my style and a little bit more of my style and whatnot. And being offline, starting off the year offline, just letting my work catch up to me, letting it resonate with who it's supposed to resonate with, giving it time to reach those people. When I log back into TikTok and, you know, log back into X and Tumblr and whatever else, you know, I was actually surprised, like, oh, they still liking, oh, they still doing this, doing that. They still what you do on TikTok where you reshare it or whatever. They still doing that. Oh, this video got 12K views now. Wow. Okay. You know, I didn't expect that. Okay. So it's just like, sometimes we don't know that we're ahead of the curve. Like sometimes we're just pushing so hard, we're putting out content every day. We trying to film every day. And it's like, baby, you haven't even given the content time to reach the people it's supposed to reach. You haven't even given yourself time to see the results. Like I look at, sometimes I look at artist stats, or, I watch videos where they talk about Billboard Hot 100 and whatnot. And, I see like some of these artists, their songs don't become like gold or platinum or whatever until like 5 or 10 years later. Like they might not have a diamond song until 10 years after the release, right? And it's like, what if you beat yourself up because you're not at, 10,000 views in a week, but it might have taken a whole year to get to 10,000 views, or it might have taken 5 years for the right people to see your video. And then all of a sudden it picks up traction. And then you have so many people watching your videos. Oh, now your video is so hot, but it's a message that you had filmed back then that people needed right now. You might have been ahead of your time, but because you beat yourself up, and I'm saying you, talking to me as well, but because we might have beat ourselves up, change my language because y'all know, I be saying we in my old content, because we might beat ourselves up in our creation process, whether it's content or not, whatever we're putting out into the world, we may, just feel like, oh, it's not successful, it's not good enough, when really it's just ahead of the curve, ahead of the ball. And you just got to sit back and let things kind of marinate sometimes. The second lesson that I learned was there is nothing more interesting than your real life, okay? Like seriously, detaching from these apps, detaching from the internet, detaching from watching other people and seeing what they're doing and what they're wearing and where they're going and just all the things and all the commentary videos, because I definitely watch a lot of commentary type content, or video essay contents. I do watch those as well. Just taking a break from all of those things and grounding myself in my own reality, it made me realize, like, okay, there's stuff that's interesting about me. And I know that already, but what I'm saying is that sometimes you go on these apps and you're looking for entertainment, right? You're looking for something to occupy you, not realizing that, there's books you can be reading, there's courses you can be taking, there's things you can be creating outside of the internet. There's a lot of stuff you can do in your life that's entertaining and interesting than scrolling on social media all the time. So, I feel like that point is kind of self-explanatory. Number 3, I learned that it's really important to define the ways the internet will serve you, okay? Because if not, you will end up serving the internet, okay? You will be logged on 24/7, not able to go 30 minutes without checking your phone or scrolling. And like I just said in my second lesson that I learned, there's nothing more interesting than your real life. So, being offline, pulling away, and then coming back online, it made me kind of be more intentional about what I wanted to accomplish through these platforms. I am an artist, so, being that I have pages and platforms for the artist component of myself, I said, you know what? I'm getting a little bit too personal on some of these apps, and I just need to keep it at what I'm creating, and It's not to say that I can't, have a vlog or two or have just a little bit of personal connection in the videos, but it's just like, I think that I can definitely say that in my past content, I feel like I was trying too hard to be relatable. That's not my job. My job is just to put out whatever I'm gonna put out, and whoever it resonates with, it resonates with. I don't have to try to make a connection with people. I think that drive to try to make a connection was because I was going through a lot of situations that made me feel lonely and that isolated me. So, and I've talked about this in my older content, just kind of wanting to bridge that gap, where I lacked friendships and connections and relationships such as like family and community and stuff, just trying to bridge that through the internet, through connecting with people online. But as I said before, that didn't really work too well for me because a lot of the connections I made were just awkward, weird, and kind of toxic, and they were really false connections. Yeah, if you ever find yourself getting lost in the purpose of why you're online, you might just want to step away for a month, a couple weeks, or even longer. Because like, even if you're just online to keep up with family and friends and just keep everybody updated and in the loop, you can still determine what kind of content you're going to share and things of that nature. Just because you're not making content for a specific purpose, you're still a content creator. If you are posting on the internet, if you are making reels and TikToks, you're still a content creator, So it's okay to evaluate what you're sharing and why you're sharing it. Moving on. So a lesson I learned offline: clarity and peace of mind is way more valuable than being in the loop. A lot of us have fear of missing out. We want to know the latest celebrity tea. We want to know local tea. We want to know what the family is doing. We want to know what old friends from high school is doing, and who's dating who, and we want to be in the know. We don't want to be left out of what's going on around us. However, I discovered over time, like being on social media a lot, I knew too much. Like, for example, and I feel like I've told this story before somewhere, I remember going to somebody's wedding, and I had never met their family before, but I knew a lot of people in their family because they would post them on their story so much, and take pictures with them and stuff like that. And I also I don't really like stories anymore because I feel like people, they post way too much information on their stories. Like, they post their day-to-day life, like minute-to-minute updates on their story, and I feel like it's just a little too invasive. So years ago, I kind of stopped watching people's stories because I felt like, ooh, I know too much about you. Like, and then I would go in person, I would see them in person, and I would know so much, but I couldn't talk to them about it because we didn't even have a personal connection. We didn't really have, a friendship or a depth to where I could be like, oh, I saw you went here, or I saw you did this, or how's so-and-so? I seen you posted that whatever, or they graduated, or whatever. I saw the party you went to. Like, I can't have those conversations because then it would be kind of awkward. Or maybe I could, but I just didn't feel comfortable doing that. Knowing so much about people that you don't really necessarily have a close connection with, being in the know of what's going on in general, like in society and the world, sometimes it is a thief of peace and it is a thief of clarity. You just don't have to know everything. Sometimes our intuition, sometimes our divine insights, sometimes the clarity of God comes from the absence of the mind, right? This is why when you go to sleep and you have vivid dreams or whatever, you have psychic dreams, you're like, it's shocking because it's like you're not even really aware, you're not awake, but there's some part of you that is receiving this divine download, this special information. And one of my biggest reasons, now that I've arrived here, I guess I have no choice to talk about it. One of my biggest inspirations for starting off 2025 with a social media hiatus, I wanted to open my third eye a little bit more. And if you go on my other platforms, such as Tumblr, X, even my Facebook page, all last year I dropped downloads, spirit messages to help us work through the third eye and enhance, balance, just really learn about this third eye space, right? A lot of spiritual platforms, they talk about the third eye as, this crazy woo-woo psychic, space, and, this space that gives you so many abilities, whatever. And I'm not saying that that's not true, but I like to give a more grounded and practical teaching, I guess, if you will, because you can learn from this content that I create. I like to give a more grounded and practical approach and teaching of things like the third eye, because how are you going to work with it? That, in fact, that is why so many people don't know how to tap into their third eye and how to work with the third eye space, is because they're so focused on being psychic and seeing visions and seeing beyond the veil, when the real main purpose of your third eye is your imagination. If you cannot imagine, you cannot see the future. You cannot see beyond the veil. There are things that are real. There are timelines that can be manifested, but you have to be able to see, you have to be able to imagine it before it becomes real, before you can really understand what you're seeing. One of the biggest gifts that I was granted and blessed with by starting off 2025 offline, by pulling away from social media, detaching myself from platforms like Instagram, I was granted the opportunity to heal and recover my third eye. I got back more of my imagination. I don't want to say it was always lost. I mean, my imagination, surprisingly, it stayed very well intact from childhood, but I just wasn't really aware that, oh, this is my third eye. These are the visions. Okay, I'm starting to see. I'm starting to connect. Yeah. Okay, spirit. I see what you're talking about. Okay, ancestors, I see it, right? When you constantly have screens in front of your face, when you constantly have images being shown to you, when you constantly have voices in your ear, it disrupts your third eye. It disrupts your link to the divine. It disrupts your ancestral communication. It disrupts your creativity. I was doing this exercise with myself last year where I have this big mirror, and I've had it for a couple of years, but I really like big mirrors and stuff like that. So, I have this big mirror, and I would go stand in front of it And when I was getting ready to go out somewhere, I would just stare at myself until I knew what I wanted to wear. Because like I felt like I had gotten into this space where like I would just kind of wake up and throw on whatever. And I was just like, I want to dress like a little bit better. Like, I have cute clothes, but like I feel like I don't really put myself together all the time. So I was doing this exercise where, like I said, I would just stare at myself in the mirror, and then, I would just let my imagination like kind of dress me, right? And so once I kind of got the vision of, okay, you got this shirt, you need to put this shirt with these pants, and oh, what if you wore these shoes? Let's try these shoes. Like once I saw myself in the outfit that I already possessed, right? It's not that I had to go out and buy these things, but once I saw myself in the outfit, then I would go ahead and get dressed for the day. And it was like I was manifesting a small piece of my day. I was manifesting a little moment for myself. And sometimes I would be surprised at like the outfits I would come up with, because it was something that I wouldn't naturally just go and grab and be like, oh, I'm gonna put this with this. But when I took the time to just let my mind flow and just kind of be in the moment and just let my mind kind of wander, right? I began to actually be able to see beyond the veil, or, just beyond what was presently there. I wasn't literally wearing the clothes that I was seeing already, but I was imagining them. My third eye was open and I was creating and brainstorming and giving myself ideas in real time. And you can do this with anything in your life. You can kind of, think about it as daydreaming. So the point I was trying to make is that, when you have, I know there's this saying where it says a idle mind is the devil's playground. And yeah, I definitely think there's some truth in that. However, an idle mind, a mind that's not occupied 24/7 by the TV, the phone, the laptop or computer, that's not constantly being fed with information, is not always the devil's playground. Sometimes it's, I'm trying to figure out what to call it. Sometimes it's, let's just say it's God's garden. Okay, let's call it God's garden for right now. Sometimes it is not the devil's playground. It is God's garden. It is an opportunity, right? When you have the absent mind or an idle mind, when you just give yourself a break, when you just say, you know what, let me just give myself a little space to, play around with ideas, and let me just let my mind wander. Sometimes that's when you'll get the downloads. That's when you'll get the prophetic messages and the greatest ideas and the creative sparks, right? And you end up being able to manifest a different reality. Like I said, giving you the simple example of how I was getting ready for my day, okay, now I'm stepping out into the world looking a little bit different, giving a little slay, a little subtle slay, to go run errands or whatever. And it might have made a small difference in, making connections with people and just how I felt, my mood overall, feeling more confident and feeling more assertive about myself because, okay, hold up. This is kind of eating. I know I'm looking good. Like, okay, right? So it's like you're in those little subtleties, you're manifesting, and you're not doing it all by yourself, but you are tapping into your own divinity, your own third eye, your own imagination, instead of replacing those things with other people, other creators, and other people's opinions. Like, you give yourself a time to stop and think for yourself. And we really, really, really do need that. I've got 2 more lessons that I want to share, and then I'm going to end this video. The next lesson is that repetition is a thief of creativity. You need to take a break, okay? Like, if you are a content creator, if you are a creator of anything, whether it's content or not, you know, because there's content with everything. You can have any type of content, right? Does not even have to be online. But, you know, if you write books, you're writing content. If you're a creator, you know, like I mentioned earlier, I was pushing myself to just like, okay, keep going, keep creating, don't stop. Okay, people are hating on you, keep creating. People are talking shit, keep creating. People are trolling, keep creating. People are being messy, keep creating. Nobody's liking, keep creating. And it was like, you know, like I said earlier, I wasn't giving myself time to really process what I was creating. I also wasn't giving what I was putting out time to really resonate with people. And I mean, I guess in a way, you know, you could say I was kind of oversaturating in a little bit. I just noticed that, like, when I took a break from putting stuff out, it actually gave me a boost of creativity. Already, I have so many videos that I want to record, so many topics that I want to discuss, because I gave myself time to just really like think about, okay, what have I already discussed on this platform? What have I already done, you know, and how can I not just elevate those topics, but move on to the next thing. So, you know, sometimes like it's good to be consistent, but you don't want to be so consistent that you rob yourself of doing things new or doing things a different way. You know, like sometimes consistency can just turn into beating a dead horse. You know, it's like, okay, how many videos you going to make about this same topic? How many times you going to talk about this same thing? You know, and how many times you're going to post these same types of pictures and these same types of videos, whatever it is. And I see this with other content creators as well. Like, you know, I think that it is always healthy to take a break, which leads me to my final lesson. Give yourself space to evolve. Not every single thing needs to be reported, witnessed, discussed. And this is what I like to believe. You know, there's a quote, we all know it, the revolution will not be televised. And some people, they disagree with that statement. They say the revolution will be televised. I don't believe it will. I actually agree with the original saying. The revolution will not be televised, okay? So revolution, just simply that word means change. When you think about that quote, it's saying that real change is not going to be documented or seen or recorded, right? Real change is just going to happen in real time. Really what might happen is things may go from point A to point F, and you will not see B, C, D, E. You just gonna see F. And guess what? Sometimes that's okay. Not everybody is meant to see your progress, your updates, your evolution. Sometimes some people are just meant to see the finished product, and that's that. That's that. I am definitely going to be making some changes, just moving forward, and how I create content and how I present myself online. I now understand that I have all the time I need. There's no rush. You know, I don't have to create a month's worth of content. I don't have to film something every day. I have to film something every week. I don't have to film something for 6 months if I don't want to. It's just kind of like I can give myself that creative freedom. I just think there's so much beauty in that, like that I just don't have to do things the way that everybody says you have to do them, just to continue my journey of sharing things that I really want to share and taking you guys along the journey with me, whatever that may be, on across my different platforms. So with that being said, stay tuned. I will be popping on with more in-depth spiritual content. If you have anything you want to share about online platforms and your experience with taking social media breaks or hiatuses from the internet, let me know in the comments. The chat is open, and I will see you guys later. Bye.